Okay. Did you know that your spoon can either deliver the most powerful medicine or the most toxic poison? That is a quote from today's extraordinary guest, and it perfectly sets the stage for what we're about to dive into. I'm your host, Mayim Vega, naturopathic herbalist and founder of Arukah.com, the Holistic Life Academy, where we empower people to unlock their inner healers and become holistic healers for their homes, for their families, and communities. And today, I am thrilled to introduce you to someone whose story and mission are just as powerful as her quote. Dr. Laleh is a molecular and cellular biologist turned nutritional healing doctor with a Ph.D. from Dartmouth Medical School. She has directed clinical research labs for immunotherapy, worked in health policy, and now helps people reverse chronic disease, including cancer, through customized food prescriptions based on genetics, biology, and epigenetics. She doesn't believe in a one size fits all diet or magic pills or starvation tactics like fasting. Instead, she provides each client with a personalized roadmap for lifelong health with zero side effects. You're about to hear from a woman whose passion was born from personal tragedy and transformed into purpose. Please welcome the founder of Dynamic Natural Advantage, the inspiring Dr. Laleh. Hello.
Hi.
Shalom, Dr. Laleh. It's such an honor to be able to spend time with you and speak to you today. You have a lot of interesting stories to tell, I know, which we'll jump into. But
Thank you.
could we just start with your personal story and how you got into natural healing? Yeah, I think that's a good place to start.
Oh, well, okay. Yeah, my personal story goes way back. My dad, who was my hero and God and heaven and earth and everything between, he was diagnosed with advanced stage cancer, uh, and he died on my 15th birthday. He was only 49. And you can imagine my world came crashing down. My mom never was the real parent. In fact, she never really wanted me. So I was kind of an oops child, accident child that was never supposed to be born. So my story starts way back from there. And beating all the odds, I was basically came into this world against all odds. But that sort of set the roadmap for me to pursue what I do today because I watched my dad deteriorate to the effects of chemotherapy and radiation and toxic chemicals in only a short year after he was diagnosed. And I just couldn't erase that image of my mind when my dad just was barely 100 pounds during his final days. I was born in Iran, so I was during the political upheavals and the Iran-Iraq war. So I had no future going to school or further my education back there. So I actually fled the country as a political refugee, ended up in Belgium, where I had to learn three languages, and going to college was difficult. So fast forward, a few years later, three continents, three countries later, I ended up in the United States. And exactly 20 years after my dad died, I became a research scientist in cancer biology and cancer immunology. And you think mission accomplished? I did clinical research, cancer research for many years, and moved into public health and public policy, clinical practice. But there was always something missing. It's just I didn't want to watch people um, deteriorate to the therapy of toxic chemicals. And most of the time, believe it or not, you see people don't die of cancer, they die of the organ failure and the toxic chemicals that they're treated with. I'm not saying they shouldn't do that, but really there has to be a sort of a better middle ground. So I started using my brain and my problem solving skills as a scientist to develop a unique program that will allow me to use a person's unique biology and epigenetics and genetics and everything that makes them unique to craft a program, a nutritional healing program that will target their cancer. And later on, really chronic conditions sort of came flying my way just because people wanted a better way. So I am blessed today that I have left the academic research actually since 2018, and have been doing the work that I absolutely love to do. And I never looked back. And I am very, very blessed to have so many people in my life that trust their lives with me. And yeah, it's really a joy and an honor.
I love that. Yeah, it's great that you have all that background in research and public health. But would you say that your work that you're doing right now, it's kind of like boots on the ground, actually helping people heal? Would you say that maybe that's part of the most rewarding part of your career?
It is because, yeah, the most rewarding part is when you realize that people, especially with a diagnosis like cancer, they come with a lot of fear, lost hope, uncertainty, frustration. And when you see them feel in control and see that hope coming back in their faces and knowing that they can really take charge of their own health, it's the most rewarding part. And they have hope and they live their life, not their cancer or their chronic condition, is just the most rewarding thing. Absolutely. And really, it's a lot about teaching people to take control of their health and adopt a lifestyle that is meant for them, then just to tell them do as I say, right? Because if there's a lot of coaching and teaching and guidance goes into the program, and the relationship I have with my clients is extremely valuable. So for me as well as for them, yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. So I've got a lot of questions. One of them would be, what, 'cause I know you help people with different types of issues, but one of your specialties is, of course, cancer. And I'm
Mhm.
wondering what stages of cancer can you help people through? Like, can they be in stage one, two, three, four? Does it matter all stages?
That's a great question. It really doesn't matter. And I welcome anyone who is willing to take control of their health and do the work. I'll tell you a story. I hope we have time because this is powerful. Um, a few years ago, back in 2016, I believe November, a woman came to me. Her name is Gail, and she was open about it, so I can mention her name. And she was told that her cancer was not curable, not treatable, and basically she should go home and be comfortable. And she had 3 months to live. And she was 52 years old and very young, obviously. So she came to me and she said, I'm just going to pursue something different if traditional medicine isn't going to help me. And she came and she barely could lift her arm. Doing exercise was out of the question. So we started working together, really comprehensive plan for her. And 6 months later, note the time, she had 3 months to live. She was given 3 months to live. 6 months later, she had a scan done and all the tests, and her body was cancer free to a point that her oncologist wrote, and I quote, "Unfortunately, there is no cancer in your body, so we cannot put you on a phase 1 clinical trial," end quote. A person has to have cancer in
That's
their body
crazy.
to be registered for,
Unfortunately, why would that be?
unfortunately. And because that's a requirement to put someone in clinical trial, and she was, after 6 months, cancer free. And needless to say, I apologized to Gail about that conversation from her oncologist, and I said she wasn't thinking what she was saying. But the point of the story is Gail took control of her health. And she said, she wrote this, and it's on my website. When I was given 3 months to live, Laleh gave me my life back. Now, I did not give her life back. I gave her a roadmap. I put her in the driver's seat and she drove to her destination. She decided to live her life. She lived almost 8 years after that 3 months death sentence, if you will. And she lived a full life. And she eventually actually died of an infection in the hospital. So that goes to say, nobody knows how much any of us have. And one of my pet peeves is when patients are given a certain amount of weeks or number of months or whatever, because that's absolutely wrong. No one knows. Nobody knows. So I don't have a particular requirement as to the stage or whatever. Anyone who is willing to take control of their health and live life to the fullest and want to do it are welcome in my world, because I've had quite a few stories like Gail, where they were not really sure how much time, like more than 3 months or 6 months they had, and they lived 7 years, 11 years, even another case past that. So why not? So that's a great question, but it doesn't matter. I've had people from very, very low stages to very, very advanced stages. So it doesn't really matter.
Yeah. So just a little comment about, when people give you a prophecy, so to speak, and say, "Oh, you have 3 months to live." What they're saying is that is what's typical. These are statistics. People who have been found to be in that specific condition, they tend to, only have
Yeah,
3 months to live from that point on. But that's considering that they're not going to do anything to change their lives, that
right,
they're gonna follow, also all the hospital protocols, the chemotherapy, the radiation, things like that. Even though they quote unquote cure your cancer, they don't actually improve your quality of life or extend your
correct,
lifespan. And I think
correct,
this is so important that people need to realize this.
absolutely.
When doctors say that you are cured of cancer, it just means that they cannot detect the cancer anymore. But
Yes,
that this doesn't mean that you're going to live any longer or have a better quality of life. It's often the same or even a shorter lifespan, because oftentimes patients can't survive the radiation or the
correct.
chemotherapy that they're given. They can't survive
Mm-hmm.
past that. So what good is getting, quote unquote, getting rid of your cancer if you're going to die sooner, or if you're going to
Yeah.
be miserable for that short
Mm-hmm.
amount of time? And
That's, you bring up a
people don't know
good
this.
point. Absolutely. And I'm not in a position, or nobody is to say what route any person should go. But you brought an important point. Even if they decide whatever traditional medicine, chemotherapy, radiation, or whatever means of therapy a person chooses is ultimately the person's choice. I am here to guide them because I was in clinical trials, so I can educate them about the pros and cons and everything that's involved, and translate that science into lay language that people can understand. But more importantly, my goal is not just to be cancer free. Cancer free is first step. My goal is for you to be well and thrive, not survive cancer, but live your life and not your cancer. And that is what oftentimes is not. Patients get therapy, get support, whatever, cure their cancer. They are cancer free, or disease free survival, they call it. But then they are left alone. So what not? What now? Even with the side effects of those things, such as neuropathy and such as other complications that come after the therapy that patients are left with, but they get no guidance and support as to how to improve these things. While if we complement even whatever traditional treatment they decide to do, which I've had many people do, that is it allows them to um, actually prepare their body to be much more equipped to fight cancer itself by itself, and also um, fight those side effects of the therapy, and have a much better experience even as they're going through it and afterwards. But the real goal is to be well and thrive and think about long term in life, and not just day to day. I'm cancer free now, 6 months, because that is the part that's really painful. I can't say I understand. I haven't had cancer. I can never understand. But you can imagine living your life every day thinking, okay, so until the next test, I am cancer free. And that is basically what they have. There's no alternative to say, no, I'm not going to be just cancer free. I'm going to be well. I'm going to live my life to
Mm-hmm.
the fullest. And that's, I think it's the value that's oftentimes not offered or missed. You bring a
Mm-hmm.
good point. Yeah, absolutely. And sometimes the difference between some therapy and not is two to 3% difference. And oftentimes people don't understand that until they see all the facts and all the data, and they're able to understand and say, okay, so if I have 2% chance of living 5 years longer versus three, like, well, what's the choice? And
Mm.
they can make that decision on their own with all the information and all the accurate statistics. But also you bring something else, which I like to mention, is I always say as a scientist, we looked at statistics all the time, data and statistics, majority, whatever. But when it comes to people, you are not a statistic.
Mm.
You need to be treated as a person, not a statistic. And when it comes to each and every individual, having seen it time and time again, yes, people beat the odds all the time, and they can't be treated as a statistic. That's good information that we can have. Okay, majority of the cases based on what they've seen is that, but truly every individual is unique, so they can't be and shouldn't be treated as a statistic.
Mhm. Mhm. Yeah, absolutely. So, I just wanted to, if we could, just discuss a little bit of cancer therapies. I think general radiation is usually a lot more harmful than it is helpful. I am a big fan of localized radiation, very focused and targeted. I have a friend who works with the machines that provide that kind of treatment. And it's great because it doesn't, harm the rest of your body. And
Mm-hmm.
then chemotherapy, I think there's a lot of plant medicine and supplements, I believe, that can really take the place of chemotherapy. I think one of the problems, though, is that oftentimes when people have medical insurance,
Mm-hmm.
chemotherapy is covered, whereas,
Yeah,
juicing or vitamins and supplements is not.
herbs and stuff. Yeah, they're not.
Yeah. So, I mean, how do you? I think part of it is, they're thinking, well, I can just save money if I do this other thing. What would you
Mm-hmm.
say to that?
Well, in my mind, when it comes to your health, there is no price, right? You can't put a price on it. And fortunately, the majority of people who have been diagnosed with cancer, they they are very motivated to do anything, and that motivation basically wins over any cost, if you will. But in my mind, is the money, if you will, monetary savings you have based on, okay, I have insurance, chemo covers it. When you put that next to the non-monetary value of having your life and having a quality of life and living your life to the fullest is without side effects, it's priceless. I mean, it's money versus really your life, and can you put a value on your life, on your health? I
Mm.
mean, I always say there's two things you can never get back. One is time, it's gone. And one is your health, right? If it got gone bad. So I think it's just need to shift the mindset of thinking about this as an investment in life versus a cost. And you are right. There's actually, when you think about the cost of monetary cost of therapy, which oftentimes, yeah, some of it is covered, but some of it is not. It can be pretty expensive actually going on for a long time versus the investment a person makes in, say, certain herbs and supplements is not even comparable. I mean, you can have a good natural cancer support protocol for under $100 a month, and there are no side effects to that. Right? And it's a quality of life versus that. And a lot of times it could be, although there are complications, but people can be undergoing treatment and we can still support on the side with food prescriptions and natural herbs and supplement prescriptions. We can do that. Sometimes, though, that limits my hands in terms of certain therapies are not necessarily in agreement with certain herbs and supplements. So we have to watch that, which is fine. It just changes the direction of the course that we take. So, but it's a great question. It's a tough choice, but more and more people are becoming more sort of advocates for themselves, and they do get second opinions and they do ask other people. And I've had lots of people ask me, okay, take a look at this, take a look at that, there's a clinical trial, there's this, and I'm happy to do that because it helps them say, oh, this is something maybe I want to do, or no, I don't think this is what I want to do, once they understand all of the facts and truth about every side of the equation, basically. Yeah.
That's wonderful. Can I ask you another question about the lady that whose story you shared earlier?
Mm-hmm.
Gail, right?
Mm-hmm.
What was her age?
She was 52 when she came to me, and she had had cancer for about a year by that time. And she had had operation, something, no therapy was responding at that
Mm,
point. And the last thing they did, they actually opened up for surgery, and they're like, nope, we can't do this. We can't touch this. So basically, that's when she was told that they cannot do anything for her, except for maybe participating in a phase 1 clinical trial. And phase 1 clinical trials, as many of you might know, is not going to help the patient. It's going to help the research for future
mhm,
people to come, because they
mhm,
don't know everything about the therapy that they're proposing. But
mhm,
the requirement is that you have to have active cancer in your body to be participating in a phase 1 trial. So when she came to me, she was 52, and it was November. And 6 months later, she went back, and miraculously, she's alive and she's doing well. She is exercising, she's doing yoga, she is walking, she was active. And the oncologist said it has nothing to do with diet or lifestyle, which was disheartening, but well, that was her belief. And it's she was lived literally almost 8 years. She almost turned right before her 60th birthday. Actually, I think a month or so before that, she passed away. So she was young.
mm.
She was 52 years old.
Why do they say that? Why do they say that cancer has nothing to do with diet and lifestyle? I mean, isn't there enough evidence to show otherwise?
There is more and more these days, which I'm happy to see. We are becoming much more aware of the effects of our food, and more recent years. And I've been talking about these things for many years, and I've been the outlaw, believe it or not. People think I'm crazy. The cuckoo person who thinks food is going to heal. I've been doing this for 12 years or more. But um, the sad thing is, the medical education, I just did a workshop on this. They get about an hour and a half to 2 hours of complete any course or education on nutrition in medical school, right? And when that is presented, if it is, first of all, it is not tested. People don't know that. Medical students are not tested on their knowledge on nutrition or effective nutrition on health. That's just kind of, if they're getting it, it's a bonus knowledge, right? And it's very minimal. And the second thing is that if it is, it's mostly focused on biochemistry of food, right? Not really, okay, how can food affect a person's health to prevent disease? That's never even a training. So an MD or a doctor who's not had that education doesn't feel confident to provide that advice for their patients. So the easiest way would be, well, what they know is what they've trained for and learned is medication. There is a medication for this. There is an ailment, there is a drug for it. And that's the training, really, to blame. But if an oncologist really doesn't have the knowledge in the background to provide any kind of feedback about lifestyle and nutrition, if they are not willing to admit that they don't know, most of the time is it has nothing to do with that because it's the easiest way out, right? But for 7 years, the same oncologist would say the same thing to Gail. She would literally ask, why do you think I'm alive after 7 years, 6 years, 7 years? And I've changed my lifestyle. And they were like, it has nothing to do with it. You just, one of the odd, whatever, lucky ones. But that's basically the sad truth about the training in medical schools.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And it's sad that they have so little training. I've heard
Mm-hmm.
a month, I heard one of my friends who's a doctor, she said they did one course on nutrition. So I mean that's a little bit better than
Yeah.
1 or 2 hours, but still it was still very generic
No,
and
it's one and a half to 2 hours, I think, throughout their training. So per week, per month, or some per year, or something like so. It adds up being like one course,
Okay. Yeah.
one quarter. So
Mhm.
it's very little, even considering, and what you see. My own sister is a physician, and I looked at her, or one of her courses. There was genetics section on human genetics in medical school, was like a short chapter,
Mm.
which to me is what? Like, really? Is this what all? And nutrition, there was none at the time. And it's
It's
very
like they're
selective.
stuck in the dark ages when it comes
Right,
to
right.
health.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's becoming better. I have to say, people are becoming more aware and ask questions. Some doctors are becoming more aware and kind of self-educate, and kind of based on their own interests go
It
about
has to be
that.
done through self-education, though.
Yeah, that's basically not the curriculum, but people who are willing to and have the time, they would. So hopefully it'll get better. Yeah. All we can
Yeah.
hope is educate one person at a time, right?
Yeah. And also, the more we educate the public about it, the more there's demand, and then the more the
Yes,
doctors
yes.
will get into programs. So, what did Gail's protocol look like? If you wouldn't, I know everyone is individual and it's not going to look for the same for everyone. But
Yeah,
just,
great
since we're
question.
talking about Gail, well, what did her program look like?
So for number one thing, for I use Gail as an example, but generally that's how it goes. So I normally look at a person's unique attributes, family history, what's the type of cancer, what are the genetic markers, if there are any, or other markers. There's always some tests that they do for that, and there is looking at family history of other things, because oftentimes people think of there's cancer. They don't look at the grandfather had an autoimmune disease, or the grandmother had some. So all of those things play a factor in what comes down in the family history of the person. And then on top of that, the genetics are only a blueprint, but the epigenetics of each individual is what determines how those genes are expressed and behave. You can't change the sequence of your genes, but you can control how they express and how they basically determine an outcome based on the epigenetics. So we look at the person's biological markers, family history, every lab and every test that they have done, I look at, even if people think it's completely irrelevant. Someone with cancer comes to me, I want to see their A1C and I want to see their cholesterol. And I'm like, yes, it is definitely relevant, because that is the environment that either feeds the cancer or starves the cancer. So if all other aspects of health are compromised, the body is not going to support an environment that's going to fight cancer and heal the body. So I look at all of that. In case of Gail, was also the markers for the cancer that was specific, and of course all of the things I explained, and her likes and dislikes, because that's important in determining what makes this person follow through with this program. You have to dig deep and understand what they have a passion for. And Gail loved to bake, and her sad thing was, I'm not going to be able to bake anymore. And I said, well, of course you can. It's just we need to pick the ingredients that are right. And you are a baker. So I literally um, empowered Gail, if you will, because I'm not a baker, a secret. I don't know how to bake. I'm really bad at that. And I said, Gail, I need your help, because you know how to bake. You make beautiful baked goods, but let's work together to create these recipes that you create with non-toxic and non-cancer supporting ingredients. Because yes, you can have cookies and you can have brownies too, but we just need to make them right. So she actually really got excited about this whole thing. We worked together on she helping me with the recipes I couldn't figure out on my own. And I would say, well, replace this instead of that. Let's make this recipe work together. So it was something that gave, and she liked to cook too. So it gave her motivation and hope that this, I can take control of this, right? I can fix this. I can use my passion. I can still enjoy life and enjoy the things that I wanted to do. And towards the very end, she came back after she had this infection, and they put her on a feeding tube. So she couldn't eat for 2 months. And I said, okay, let's see what's in the feeding tube formula. And I look at it and I'm like, oh my gosh, there's like cancer feeding things in this formula. I
Mm.
said, Gail, how do you feel about if we make your formula ourselves and you use that in your feeding tube? And I talked with her doctor at the time, and he looked at my recipes that I made for her, and he was fine with it. So she even was so empowered at the time, even she wasn't able to eat her food, but she was making the food for her feeding tube. But she felt like she was in control. She was still able to cook for herself, even if she wasn't eating it through the mouth. So it was her story was just phenomenal. This woman was, oh my gosh, just one of those one in a million you see in your lifetime. It's just phenomenal person. And so that's how it was. And basically, we go through phases. And honestly, every person's phase starts with the basic principles. And we look at toxic things in the environment and in the food and everything, we remove them generally. So they start with a 7-day blueprint. Let's clean up the house. And that's not just your food and pantry, it's your laundry, your shampoo and conditioners, and your personal care stuff, all of that, right? So they go through that. And then we look at the body and they say, okay, start kind of cleaning up house, right? And during that period, we kind of priming the body to then be really focusing on strengthening the immune system and using the immune system to fight the cancer and not feed the cancer. Create an environment that's anti-cancer, if you will.
Mhm.
And for certain people, depending on the markers of their cancer or genetic markers or immunological markers that they have, certain foods may not be serving them at the time. That might be totally healthy foods, such as I use an apple as an example. Apple a day keeps the doctor away, but in some cases not. So during some period of time, we focus on optimal foods for their type of disease. And I have a scoring system for that based on my own work and research. I'd say, okay, so for you, these are highest scoring foods. 100 is the maximum. So we start with those. The ones that are not serving you right now very much, they're not highest scoring foods for your type of cancer or disease or biology. We kind of put them aside for now, right? Until we really improve this environment and make it stronger. And then we can decide to incorporate those things, but they're not going to be your most beneficial things in some cases. So that's sort of just a sample. And I give them menus, I give them shopping lists, I give them recipes. They don't have to use it. But so they get all of that, as well as for cancer programs, they have weekly calls with me for whatever they want to talk about. And oftentimes there's a lot of just talking and emotional support that they otherwise won't get from the healthcare system. There's no time for that, right? So, and then monthly tweaking, and everything is so hands-on. So we'll see how the person's doing, how the body is responding, and then we tweak it as we go for a full 6 months. And then hopefully they have a life plan after that, and that they can adopt that and just live their life like that with all the tools and the toolbox that they can use for the rest of their lives. So
I love that. That's such a holistic approach. And that's just a beautiful picture of what, a true holistic, health coach. I call it a health coach, but only because of, the model that you're using where you're not the star. It's the patient that's the star,
of course,
and you're
yeah.
empowering them to make the right moves in
Right, yeah.
in the game of life and in their
I
field.
always say I'm just your GPS. You're the driver.
I love that. That's
So
so
you take the steering wheel. I tell you where we go. You can get us lost. I will still give you a detour and get us there. But eventually you're the driver, because the person has to feel that they are in charge, and they are. I mean, if they don't take charge, they can't, control their outcomes, and nobody can but yourself. If there's nothing you have control over in this life, is one thing you have control over is what you put in your body, how you treat your body. You have control over that. So they need to be in control. They need to take control and own it.
That's a great analogy. You're the GPS. So,
Yep.
are they usually working with their doctors alongside with you at the same time? And
A combination. I've had most of the people I've seen. they have an oncologist, a doctor, depending on the involvement or interest of the doctor, I work with them or not. It goes from various degrees of, engagement with them. There are few people that I can think about that they decided that they wanted nothing to do with traditional cancer therapies, and that was their choice. And we basically worked together without any doctor involvement. In fact, one of my very recent patients, she didn't have a doctor, she didn't have a PCP. She ended up in the emergency room with a stage 4 colon cancer for the first time. Like, she had never gone to the doctor. She was just one of those people that didn't. And after that, again, she decided, no, when my time comes, and I'm going to go this alternative route. So she also liked to cook very much. So there was good, bonus, because it's important that you like and have a good relationship with cooking and preparing for yourself and caring for yourself. So it was good. But yeah, there's a combination of both. That some people, whatever they decide not to do it, but I work with their care providers, their care team, as much or as little as they want. So it's really depends on the person. And I always say, ultimately, all of the decisions comes to you. Whatever you decide to do, I'm here to support you on that path, whatever it is. So basically, that's my philosophy.
That's wonderful. Okay, so I'd like to shift a little bit, if you don't mind, because you have a very interesting story, personal story about bodybuilding, right? Can you
Yeah.
talk about that?
So it's been the story of my life. I think go back to before I was born. I was too stubborn, even so. It's been kind of a motto of my life that if you want me to do something, tell me I can't. One of the first things I was told is I wanted to become a scientist, and they're like, a woman in a male-dominated world, no way. And I'm like, watch me. And another thing I always wanted to be was a professional athlete, and my passion started with gymnastics. And but my father had a strict rule of education first and everything else second. So you focus on school, focus on all of that, and then you can do whatever sport you want. And later on, I really became infatuated with lean, muscular bodies, and just like would envy them because I didn't have that. I'm a very ectomorph person, small, cucumber shape. I'm just like that, not someone who has muscularity easily. And that's what just my biology was. And I started thinking about, natural, drug-free, because there's that too. I believed in overall health, and it was a healthy lifestyle to be an athlete, but I wanted to be completely natural. And I was just really fascinated by these muscular bodies. And I was laughed at quite a bit because people would look at me like, yeah, right. Okay. In your dreams, you become a bodybuilder and without steroids. I'm like, nope, I'm going to do it without steroids. And you watch me. So I worked really, really hard and in secrecy. I never told anybody for years. I would watch these magazines, these women I admired, and I wanted to be just like them. So I worked hard, worked really, really hard, but nobody knew. And every season I would come to a competition, I would chicken out, and I wouldn't want to do it because I was afraid. And I had a trainer. Finally, I told him in secrecy, don't tell anybody, but I've been wanting to do this. The next day, he announced it to the entire gym where I was working out. She's going to do a bodybuilding show. And he said, now you have to do it. And it was the best thing that he did because it outed me. I had to do it. So I started doing it, but I was obviously the runt of the litter. I was belittled and laughed at the beginning, and I had no business being there on stage. But you know what? It's my stubborn, mentality that if you want me to do it, tell me I can't. So I competed for probably 5-6 years, 3 to 4 competitions every year as an amateur, and I placed last and then the second to last, and then moved my way up literally every step up the way. And finally, I got my pro card in first place. So that's the story behind it, but it's a lifestyle I really, really enjoy. I'm an athlete. I'm a competitive athlete. I am, as a competitive cyclist. I like them both. So that's my hobby, if you will. Competitions and cycling. I love those things. Being outdoors, of course. And I'm also a judge. So I have actually, I became a judge, athletic judge with the WMBF, IMBF Natural Pro Bodybuilding Federation. And I like doing that because it's also supporting the sport. So yeah, that's the story behind that. That's an old picture.
That's
Well,
so fun. Yeah,
three, four
that's
years ago.
awesome.
Yep. Yeah.
Yeah, that's so colorful. Thank you so much for sharing that. Okay,
Yeah,
so
of course.
back to your I want to go back to your programs again. I know we're coming close to the end now, but I want to go back to your programs and we right now, I think you have three different ones, right? Can you talk about those?
Yeah, three core programs that are I like to focus on, and obviously the top of my focus, my biggest passion is the cancer integrated cancer control, which is customized nutrition program for any type of cancer, any stage. It's fully customized as I described, and then I have a program called a Nutritional Healing for Chronic Conditions, and that is just all chronic conditions except cancer, and that could include metabolic disorders and neurological disorders like Parkinson's. I've had phenomenal experience with Parkinson's patients. It's just incredible how Parkinson's responds to food. It's something that was not known to me, and it was a pleasant surprise. And or things like Crohn's or autoimmune disorders, or what conditions I like to call unsolved mysteries, because they don't know what's going on. They have a list of medications they're taking, they're dealing with the side effects of the medications, and they're still not feeling well. And nobody knows what's going on. And I love those cases. And the last one, but not least, is the ideal weight program. I am a firm believer that every person needs to be at a healthy, ideal weight for them. And I don't believe in weight loss programs and weight loss pills and all that kind of stuff. And there is no magic pill. If anyone promises you a magic pill, it doesn't exist. There's no such thing. So don't be sold to that. The magic is really you. You can change your life, and you can really, really take control. And anyone can lose weight and get to their healthy weight or gain weight. I've had that too. So that is the basically focused on people who want to be at a healthy weight in a healthy way, have a healthy relationship with food, and understand that good food is not your enemy. Unhealthy food is your enemy, and you can enjoy good foods and never count calories in my book, because we don't want to do math when we eat. So that's those three core programs that I focus on right now.
Right. Okay. And folks, I already asked her about this. I know how much they cost, and they are extremely affordable. I don't want to say the cost on this interview because those the kinds of things fluctuate depending on the
Mm-hmm.
company and things like that. And this is
Well, it depends on the person too. Sometimes thank you for noticing that, because sometimes I really have to customize things for the individual, especially in complex cases. So that's true.
yes, but for example, there is a cancer clinic in Mexico that I do recommend to people, Hope for Cancer, but it's tens of thousands of dollars
Heard about
to
that.
go there.
Yes. Yeah.
And it's a
Yeah.
great program. I know people heal through it, but if you don't have that kind of budget, Dr. Laleh's programs are comparable. I mean, they are a great alternative, and it's not just cancer, as you
Yeah.
saw. We've got the other
I give
chronic.
you a hint, if you don't mind. For under $4,000, you can basically get a full 6 month program with me. So
Yeah, it's great. I think that's better than medical insurance, which is also not necessarily, that cheap.
right.
Anyways, you've got to make one more program though. You've got to make one for how to become a bodybuilder.
I do. I did not advertise that. So thank you
You
so
do
much.
have
It's not actually, it's hidden on the website, and I
it?
do those
Oh no.
selectively. I am an athletic coach, so I do, and I love working with athletes, and especially women athletes who are guided in the really wrong way, and they just destroy their bodies, and it shouldn't be that way. And I love to work with women who want to do it the healthy way and want to have, they don't want to diet, they don't want to be in this yo-yo, psychological game of all of that. So I love doing that because I live the lifestyle. I live like a bodybuilder 7 days a week, 12 months a year, every single day. And so you can do that and have a healthy lifestyle all the time, and then it makes it so much more fun and easier to prepare for that event or competition, whatever it is. I do specialize in a lot of bodybuilding, in figure and basically bodybuilding group of athletic nutrition programs. But I've also worked with professional tennis players and triathletes and marathon runners in the obstacle course, because I used to do that myself. So I do those as well, but I kind of hide that from the website and do that selectively. So it is available, but it's not like I have to sort of talk to people and understand if they're really committed to a lifestyle. And I will do that. It's called Fuel for Performance, but I don't advertise it. Yeah.
Well, at least people know about it now from this
Yeah,
interview.
yeah, you all know. So anyone who wants to ask, and I'm always open to really customizing to even further, but it's just a little bit of a easier to kind of categorize in groups of services I'm able to provide and focus on, which all of them almost, believe it or not, connected. Because if you're not an ideal weight, you are at risk of developing chronic conditions, and chronic conditions can lead to cancer. So that's kind of like a continuum there. But of course, athletic performance and field performance is, I love that, and I did that for years, but I've kind of started do that selectively. So yeah, everyone who's here, yeah, if you're interested, I'm happy to chat.
Awesome. Well, wow, that was a wonderful interview. Thank you so much, Dr.
Oh,
Laleh,
thank
for
you.
gracing
Thank
us
you.
and all the wonderful stories that you
Thank
have.
you for the opportunity, of course. Thank you very much.
So, so her website is dynamicnaturaladvantage.com. I'll make sure to put, links to it on the blog and the videos that are published with this interview. And so could you just maybe, are there other places that are good to get a hold of you, or is the website the best place?
Website is good. There is a form that you can send me an email. That's really easy way. There is also actually, you can book a call with me right on the website if you want to book that. It's right there, form you fill out, and you can actually book it right there. As well as, some people message me on Facebook, on my page, and LinkedIn. I do that, but I'm always afraid I'm going to miss something, like, because I don't watch it very carefully. But they can check out my Facebook page, my LinkedIn page. I have a YouTube channel that I'm working on a little bit better. But website is easy. They can send a message, or they can just book a call. And I always like to have a conversation, obviously, before understanding that we're a good fit for each other. So that's the best way. Yeah.
Do you have an email list or a podcast or anything like that that people can follow you on?
I do have an email list, and they can actually, I highly recommend that. I send a wellness email every Thursday. I don't bombard you with emails, and there's always value. I have articles that I've written myself related to health, of course, and announcements for workshops I might be offering. And there's always a recipe. Once a month, there is a recipe. Those are popular. And sometimes I also offer resources from other professionals that I collaborate with that add value. So sign up for my email list, and you receive the Thursday morning emails and lots of value there as well. So I
How do we
used to have a podcast. I've had to kind of let some things go because I'm not a professional podcaster, and it's just I needed to prioritize. So actually, yesterday I decided I'm just not going to do the podcast anymore. So yeah.
How do you
So
get on
there.
your email list?
On the website, you can actually fill out a form and be on the email list. Definitely, that's one way, and people can do that.
So I'm on the website. Where should we go from here?
Oh, this is one of my bodybuilders you just saw. So if you go down all the way at the end of every page, book a free
Ah,
call, and you can fill out. Yeah, contact us here. You can say put me on the email list, or you can literally book a call right there, a little bit farther up. So you can literally fill out this form and be on my email list, or any questions you have, or if you just want to go ahead and book your appointment, you can do that too. Yeah.
Okay, excellent. Okay, thank you
Thank
so
you so
much.
much for sharing this, of course.
Okay, yeah, and I'm definitely getting on that email list. And would you like to just please, if you could, just close with a final thought to share with everyone?
Wow, there's so many thoughts, but that quote sort of that you said at the beginning, it really sums it up. And what I want everyone to take away from this is that chronic conditions and cancer are 85% preventable. They don't have to happen. And when they happen, it's not the end of it. So the many chronic conditions, including cancers, are manageable and reversible with the food you eat and how you treat your body. Now, if you had a Lamborghini and I told you to put sand in it once a month, you would think I'm crazy, right? Now, if you wreck that Lamborghini, you can buy another one. But if you put something in your body that doesn't belong, you can't buy another one, you can't rent another one, you can't borrow one. It's the one and only one you have. So even if it meant treating your body better than your car, that's basically the takeaway. Your body is your most precious thing, your health is your most valuable asset, and you are the most important person in your life. So remember that.
Excellent. Thank you.